Good afternoon and welcome to More Tea Minister. Today we have a double bill. I'm not going to... No, start again. Good afternoon and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. Today we are looking at one oolong, but we're going to look at it twice. Now don't worry, I'm not going to make this a double length video. We're going to have two oolong videos this week because as we've seen with Jinchuan, you do get some variation in an oolong and its flavor profile in how it presents itself depending upon how it's been processed. And so we're going to look again at that notion of changing the profile of an oolong, but we're going to be looking at a different cultivar. So over the course of two videos, we're going to be looking at Jade Oolong first of all in its I'm going to say its natural state, but its natural state is growing in the field. What I mean is in an unroasted and unbaked form, or at least if it is baked, it's only for the absolute bare minimum. So this is a classic green oolong version of Jade. And we're also going to be looking at, from a different company, one we haven't looked at before. We have roasted Tsui Yu oolong tea, which is the same thing. Tsui Yu or Cui Yu is the original name for Jade. Just a couple of other details. We haven't actually looked at an example of the Jade cultivar yet. The Jade cultivar is TRES number 13. It's very much seen as related to Jinchuan. And in fact, it was developed by the same person who developed Jinchuan. Jade has some advantages and disadvantages. It has a very complex flavor, and so in that sense, it's ideal for marketing. It can grow very well at low altitudes, and therefore it's accessible for machine harvesting, which again can reduce costs and can make it more advantageous. However, it's not suitable for high altitudes, and it's not quite as versatile as, let's say, the Four Seasons cultivar. That means that despite the advantages and the attractiveness of its flavor profile, Jade has been falling out of favor, and so it's grown less and less. I should have pointed out right from the start, although hopefully it's obvious, that this is another Taiwanese grown cultivar. So both of these oolongs were grown in Taiwan. That's not to say that Jade can't be found elsewhere. One of the things I'm hoping to show when we do our lengthy series on a very different cultivar, the Qingxin, is that it can be found as far away as Japan and Burma and lots of other countries. And apparently the same is true of Jade. So we're going to put to one side the roasted version. That's the subject of a separate video. And we're going to be looking at Jade Oolong, which is from, you might actually be able to guess, even if you can't see the title. I'm hoping you'll be able to recognize the sort of labeling by now. This is a 50-gram bag of Jade Oolong from Curious Tea. And once again, I absolutely adore their packaging. It's a way in which it visually as well as verbally can point you to the country of origin and the kind of tea. Very, very simply. I do appreciate that. The information we're given is that it's a spring harvest. It's March of this year. The one-word flavor profile is floral. However, and this is something I would very much agree with, it's smooth, balanced, floral, creamy, and it has nutty tones with a tangy, fruity aftertaste. Brewed Western style, it's 1 gram per 100 mils, 90 degrees centigrade for 3 to 4 minutes. I have over here, as always, some pre-brewed Jade Oolong in the Western style, and I've given it the full 4 minutes at 90 degrees centigrade. Although I haven't made a very great deal of it, I'm just trying to make sure I've got plenty of supplies left over for next year. What I'm meaning is it would be nice to be able to get some spring harvest Jade Oolong from next year. And if it turns out to be from the same farm or somewhere very nearby, we can see what kind of difference one year's harvest is to another. Anyway, let's put that to one side and let's try our pre-brewed Jade Oolong. I'm not going to use the strainer. I know it's good practice, but I don't need it because there's no leaves here. This has only been brewed the once. There you go, that's about right. It's very pale yellow. I would say it's a sort of washed out gold colour. You know, it's almost biscuity. It's sweet and it's mellow. I'm not picking up the freshness just yet, but it really is almost biscuit shortbread quality. Maybe the florals will come out. Oh yeah, that's really just heady amounts of sweetness and some fruit. Yeah, that's got the 3 Fs, the fresh, floral and fruity, but there's a biscuity element that's really nice. You'd almost think that it's been roasted to a fair amount. Let me show you let me show you what the leaves look like. They're still quite green, dark green. There's always going to be some variation there, but it doesn't look like something that's been even moderately roasted. But there's a lovely biscuity smell. I will double check and put something in the description box if there's a degree of roasting, but certainly it won't be as much as this other version here, which we'll discuss in our next video. So that's the flavour profile. I'm going to take a bit more, that's really good. Brewed Western style. The 3 Fs with a strong biscuity element. I'd be tempted to use slightly less water or slightly higher temperature to do that again. So maybe drop it down to 90 mils of water, maybe 85 per gram of tea, or bump up the temperature by 5 degrees and see where that goes. In fact, I might do that as we come to brew this Gongfu style. So we will be using our strainer for this. As always, because this is a rolled oolong, you can see by the little pearls or balls that the leaves have formed. Well, I'm also going to get the benefit of preheating the gaiwan. As always, this is the lid to the gaiwan. I'm using it as a platter. That's 6 grams of tea there. 6 grams per 100 mils for each steep. What I was saying before I was distracted is, for anybody who's been keeping up with these videos, the first steep with rolled oolong is always going to be longer, maybe the second one as well, because you're relying on the first steep just to get heat and water into these little rolled leaves. You're not going to get much flavour out until the leaves have unfurled. So we're going to give this first steeping 30 seconds. We'll keep an eye out in case by some miracle it's steeped very quickly. I've gone off reservation here, as I say. This is 95 degrees already. Just taking a quick look. Yeah, they're starting to unfurl slightly already. They're almost popping. And the other reason I'm looking is to see if there's any sort of brown bits that might have been a sign of roasting. What I admire about the green oolongs, if you ever look at the unfurled leaves, you can see how the oxidation, that journey away from being a pure green tea at 0% oxidation, you can see how the leaves have been very carefully bruised just around the edges. That's where the oxidation has taken place. It's often done by shaking the leaves and then a kill green to prevent any further oxidation. But you see the mastery at work in just being able to, just by the simple mechanical act of shaking in some instances, how you control the oxidation. So those have steeped, those are starting to unfurl really nicely, which means that the second steeping shouldn't need to be anywhere near as long as that. So the biscuits there, there's a full fruity quality maybe. I think there's a bit of, yes, I think it's that vegetal taste that you do get with green oolongs. It's a freshness, it's biscuity and it's fresh. That's what I'm trying to get at. Let's try this first steeping. It's biscuity and fresh. That's what we're looking at. That's a pretty vibrant colour already. There you go. I think that's a brighter colour than the Western style. A bit more gold in there. It's the freshness of a green oolong. Butter, definitely butter. And biscuit. And 0 carbs. It was a joke somebody always used to make about smoking cigars. All the different flavour profiles, including chocolate if you got the right cigar, but 0 carbs. Same again, but even brighter sweetness. Fresh, floral, fruity. I wouldn't want to steep it for any longer. It's not bitter, but it's starting... It's shortbread. I'm going to finish that one off. It's shortbread with a kind of freshness. It's absolutely fantastic. So let's go with our second steeping. Definitely shorter. The leaves, in fact, let me show you. The leaves are pretty much unfurled. That's only after the first steeping. Maybe that's because of the high temperature or just the nature of these leaves. But we'll bring that back down to 20. Always counting from when the water starts to hit the leaves. There we go. This is steeping 2. 20 seconds this time. Brought it back down. And also brought it back down because the leaves are pretty much unfurled, but I was starting to get that little sharpness that suggests it's just about as steeped as it can be time-wise. Yeah, having brought it back, the sharpness is gone. It's biscuity, buttery, and fresh. It's not picking up floral necessarily, but what there is fantastic. Colour-wise, it's not as gold as the other one, but back to where the Western style was, I would reckon. Pale gold. Yeah, that's fantastic. There's no drop off in the flavour, so it's not dilute. Sweet, very rich, very satisfying. Definitely some freshness in there. Less of the sort of direct biscuit taste. But still really rich, like I say. There's butter in there. Oh, it tastes like there's butter in there. Okay, third and final steeping. Maybe no more than 20 seconds again. In fact, I'm going to pour the water down the side rather than directly on the leaves. That gives it that slight chance to cool down before it touches the leaves. So we're going to push that a couple of seconds past 20. So the first one was easily 35. The second one was 20. This one will go for 22. Got the strainer back on. That would be a bad idea. More vegetal, more straight up green oolong. But very sweet again and buttery. It reminds me of, imagine buttered veg, but without the savoury aspect. That's very much what it is. Colour wise, oh, that's a nice gold colour. You're seeing it just as much as I am. That the fruit's coming right through there, sweet and fruity. Same again, sweet and fruity. That's the most complicated, that's the most complex steeping yet. The sweetness is staying in the palate, that's always a good sign. Yeah. So, what can we say about this oolong? Pretty easy to brew. And as much as you want that first steeping of a rolled oolong, if it's Gongfu to be a bit longer, keep an eye out because that unfurled faster than I thought. Mind you, that was up at 95. 90 might have taken 2 steeps at that time. Didn't take long to get the full flavour profile. We've gone through sweet and biscuity, and we were getting into a heavy fruit at that 3rd steeping. Flavour-wise, therefore, I can recommend it. Preparation, yeah, just be careful. Just be careful how long you steep it for. That's the only sort of difficulty. Maybe make it hotter for a Western style. I don't know why I'm pointing down there to the wastewater. The kettle's over here. For the Western style, keep it a bit hotter. It's not so easy to get hold of, and sometimes you will see jade, and it's Jade Mountain, which is somewhere different. That's Yushan, if I remember rightly, not the oolong varietal. So please keep an eye out for that. I think it's worth hunting down just because it's such a complicated flavour profile. And if you like that bit of biscuit thrown into the mix, you'll love this. So it's one of those that's 2 and a bit, maybe 2.5. It's a good one. I'd recommend chasing it down and trying it. I haven't found it in many vendors though. So it remains for me only to say happy steeping and God bless.